Our next storyteller is Margaret Petros, and she was born and raised in a suburb of Baghdad, Iraq. She arrived in the U.S. in 1980, just as she entered high school. No calculations. That's what. After Saddam Hussein came to power, life changed dramatically. Saddam thrived on creating divisions and also getting people to inform on each other. I remember Margaret saying, "We all knew the barber was an informant." Margaret worked for 20 years for the Santa Clara County's Victims Assistance Program, mostly as a supervisor. In 2009, she became executive director of Mothers Against Murder, that provides similar support to families of murder victims. She was a Santa Clara County Commissioner for 20 years. Her husband Hazim works for Seagate. Their 3 kids are all poised to do great things too with their college degrees. So come on up. Oh, and I want to say thanks, Margaret. Also, she made the hummus that you might have tasted before dinner. So she was memorizing a story and cooking at the same time.
On Sunday, September 30th, 1979, I remember standing outside the home that I was born in, talking to my childhood sweetheart, who's telling me, why are you leaving? I will never leave my country. And for what? To end up working at a restaurant in America? This is the same man I end up marrying 13 years later, and together for 27 years now. I also remember the whole block of neighbors in tears as my father, my sister, and I said our goodbyes to them. As we knocked on the doors, telling them we're leaving the next morning. Every household is coming outside, watching us knock on another door, and we're all crying. Not everyone left the way we did. They left in secret in the middle of the night because of the fear of the government. Including my best friend. I woke up one morning and was told, they're gone. Like, how? No way, it's not possible. I walked to her house, and sure enough, they were gone, leaving everything behind. It was difficult for my mother to actually leave. She was connected to a large family, 13 siblings. But we did leave, and as we went to Jordan, we end up in Jordan. We're Assyrian Christians, and it's just very difficult to accept that. I remember my father being nervous and scared when we got to Jordan. He opened his dictionary and wrote to my uncle, sharing his fears. I remember him crying when he was writing the letter. We were a big family. What will we do in America? How will we survive? My uncle, as he read the letter, jumped on a plane and came to Jordan to visit us, assuring my father that it's okay, he can sponsor us, he can support us, not to fear that. Soon after, my mother sold our home in Dora, under the table, and joined us in Jordan for the big travel. My father was happy. We were all happy in Iraq before Saddam Hussein came to power. He was a television repairman, worked full-time, as well as had a small shop next to our house. There were only 2 channels in Iraq at that time. So that was the only form of entertainment. So my father's job was important. I remember people knocking on our door at midnight asking him to fix their TV. So his job was really indispensable. And also, 2 years before we left, my parents had sent my oldest sister to study in Illinois at a college, and that's when my father visited her. He took a trip from Illinois to California. And imagine, not one checkpoint stop all the way. He was really amazed and sold on this country. So when he came back, he was like, oh, we're going. I'm not leaving my children here. And then the last straw that really broke the camel's back was the school year started, and we were handed the Quran to study it. And that's when my father immediately removed us from school, and we left. We're Assyrian Christians, and it's just very difficult to accept that. In Chicago, when we got to Chicago, was my older brother and sister started working minimum wage jobs, as well as we survived on the funds that we brought from us from the sale of the house for 2 years. And then we moved to California because of the weather, of course. In 1983, I graduated from Milpitas High School with $500 scholarship to Mission College, got my AA degree in social sciences, and transferred to San Jose State University to get my bachelor's in political science. All throughout this, while in the state, I connected to my friends and my childhood sweetheart in Iraq. So when I graduated in 1987 and became a American citizen, I really wanted to go back, and I did. But what I saw in Iraq was devastating. It was during the Iraq-Iran war. Every house I visited, there were women wearing black. There were black flyers in the streets, banners outside doors saying the 5th child and the last child died in the war, the 6th and the last child. It was miserable. I was supposed to stay there for 4 weeks. I cut my vacation short, and I told myself, I'm never coming back again. And then as the war ended, Hazem called me, and every day started writing romantic letters to me. It wasn't like that when I visited Iraq, so I asked him what happened, and he was like, I was in the military. I could have ended up dead. There was no hope there. So why? Now that the war is over, what are we going to do? I was not going back to Iraq, and he couldn't come back to the United States. So we were talking about meeting in another country where he could get a visa, and probably Greece. And then Saddam Hussein invades Kuwait. I was like, men that have been in wars, not seen their families, children born without fathers, the war ended. What business do you have starting another one? So travel was banned, no phone calls. Thankfully, the coalition forces liberated Kuwait. It wasn't too long. And few days after that, I got a phone call from my now husband saying, I'm in Jordan. Are you coming to figure out where our relationship is going? I was like, yes, stay there, I'm coming. I took a 3 weeks vacation, went to Jordan. Within 3 days, I accepted the marriage proposal. We got married in 91, and then he joined me 9 months later in the States. Fortunate, he was able to work in the field that he studied for the past 26 years as a senior engineer at a Silicon Valley company. We have 3 children. The youngest one is now in college at New York University, and I'm proud to say he served and was elected as president of his high school at Los Altos 4 years. But he would not go into politics. No way. He's studying filming and productions. So, as for me, again, I love working and in the field of finding justice for people. Still help anyone who asks. That's related to victimization and bringing justice. Now, these years, I find it very difficult to read the news from Iraq. I feel heartsick about the people who are left there. Even under Saddam Hussein, there were no children begging in the streets. There were no children homeless. Now we see it on TV all the times. It's just unbelievable. All and worse happened after 2003 and the fall of Saddam. I am thankful we were able to leave a very dangerous and tragic country in the world, to start a new life and not being afraid that anyone would come knocking on our door. Thanks to my father as well as Uncle William. I every time I read the news or hear of families in such a horrific situation in Iraq, I just say thanks to what my dad did. And it was not easy for him. It was not easy for any one of us. So thank you for allowing me to tell my story.